This is writing equations in slope-intercept form. Remember that slope-intercept form refers to y equals mx plus b, where m stands for the slope of your line and b stands for the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is literally where the line crosses the y-axis. So the two things that we need to know in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form are the slope of that line, or the m value, and the y-intercept of the line, the b value. So let's take a look at this line here. The first thing we want to find is the slope. And I'm going to find the slope this time by using my 2 points and the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I need to designate which of my points is going to be point 1 and point 2. So in this case, I'm going to make this guy up here my point 1 and this guy down here point 2. So I'm going to start with the y from point 2, which is 2, minus the y from point 1, which is 5. This gives me -3. Then I want to do the x from point 2, which is also 2, minus the x from point 1. So I get -3 over 2. So my slope is -3/2. Now the y-intercept, or where it crosses the y-axis, is 0, 5. So we call that y-intercept +5. So now if I want to write this in an equation in slope-intercept form, I'm going to substitute where the m is -3/2, and where the b is, I'm going to substitute 5. So here is my equation in slope-intercept form. Now let's do the same thing for this graph. So I've got, once again, 2 points, and I need to find the slope and the y-intercept of this line in order to write my equation in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to use my 2 points. I'm going to call this point 1 and this one point 2. I'm going to use that same formula. So the y from point 2 is 2, minus the y from point 1 is -3. And when I see 2 minus -3, this is going to become a plus, and I'm going to get 5 here. I'm going to do the same thing for my x values. So the x from point 2 is 2, minus the x from point 1 is 0, so I get 5/2. So 5/2 is my slope here. And, oh, I'm sorry. The x value for point 2 here is 3. So I'm going to do 3 minus 0. My slope here is 5/3. My apologies. So my slope is 5/3. The y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, is at -3. So when I go to write my equation, I'm going to substitute my slope in for the value of m, plus for my y-intercept, I'm going to substitute in -3. Now I can do a little simplification here when I have a plus minus. This is just going to become y equals 5/3 x minus 3. And there is my equation. This time they want to know which equation is shown in the graph. So I once again need to know the slope of my line and the y-intercept. Well, this is a horizontal line. So horizontal lines are flat. They don't have a slope. They have a slope of 0. They're flat. We can walk on them, but they're flat. No slope at all. The y-intercept here, it's crossing the y-axis at -4. So when I go to write my equation, I substitute 0 for my m value and -4 for my b value. Well, 0 times any number, no matter what x is going to give me 0. So I have 0 plus -4, which can be simplified even further. Y equals -4. So answer choice A is the equation for this graph shown. This graph shows the distance to complete a tunnel. So they're doing some tunnel digging here. They've been digging for quite a few months, and it shows that at the beginning, in month 0, they still had 3,500 feet to dig for their tunnel. And now the amount that they have to dig is going down over time because more is getting dug each month. So we want to write an equation that represents the distance, y, in feet, remaining after x months. So to write any equation, we need to know our slope and our y-intercept here. So let's start with our slope. I see 2 points here. I'm going to call this one point 2 and this one point 1. So I'm going to use my formula. So the y from point 2 is 3,500 minus the y from point 1 is 1,500. So I get 2,000. The x from point 2 is 0 minus the x from point 1 is 4. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. And 2,000 divided by negative 4 is actually going to give us negative 500. So for the slope, I'm getting negative 500, which logically that makes sense because the amount that they have to dig is going down each month. So it's telling us here it's going down by 500 each month. They're getting 500 feet dug each month. Now, the y-intercept, where it would cross the y-axis, it's actually right up there where the line starts. It's at 3,500. So in order to write my equation, I'm going to write y equals negative 500x plus 3,500. Now we want to know how much time does it take to complete the tunnel? Well, if we look at our graph, they keep going down, 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 and they finally have 0 to dig after 7 months. So it's going to take 7 months for them to complete digging this tunnel.